Welcome to the French Tech Podcast. We're here at the Women's Forum Asia in Singapore, and I'm sitting down to talk to Ling Ling. Hi, Ling Ling.
Hi, Nikolai. It's a pleasure to be here at the Women's for Asia and to be here with you in this French Tech podcast.
Now, you're one of the people helping us covering the event for your podcast, Leaders of Learning, but that's not what we're talking about now. I'd like to talk to you about something else.
Sure.
You founded a company called Culture Spark Global that, as you describe it, helps companies develop cultural intelligence for an inclusive workspace. Could you tell us a bit more about what that means?
Well, I started Culture Spark Global because of my life experience of living in 6 different countries throughout my entire life. I lived and worked in many different countries and encountered many different cross-cultural and intercultural conflicts and misunderstandings. So I've also worked in quite a number of multinational corporations as well, and within that working environment, I also saw and witnessed and become a part of many cross-cultural misunderstandings and miscommunication. A lot of this can be developed within us, and we call this cultural intelligence. So just like emotional intelligence, it's an individual's capability to be able to navigate complex cultural diverse situations. So if in a work context, if you have high levels of cultural intelligence, you'll be able to understand the local context. You will have greater motivations to understand people that you're going to work with. And with that, lower levels of stress, higher levels of performance, and you'll be able to achieve what you need to achieve for your work and for your role.
And that allows for better decision making?
Yeah, better decision making, better collaboration, better communication across different people. And I know in the Women's Forum Asia, there are many women who talk about inclusion and diversity. But diversity alone is really not enough. You can have the policies, the systems, the environment in place
Right.
to be more diverse. But something has to come from within the individual itself to be motivated to want to include other people, and not just because some policy says that you have to. So CQ comes from within
So
yourself, your own skill, your own
So
capability.
you need to develop their awareness, their
Mhm.
motivation to act on
Mhm.
it, and their ability to do so.
So, cultural intelligence, just like emotional intelligence, is based on an academically validated research, and it's a framework that comes in 4 different elements. So, one is the drive, which is your internal motivation, as well as your self-efficacy to want to be resourceful and want to navigate and tackle cultural complexities. The second bit of it is the knowledge, which many of the intercultural companies out there are doing, which is providing cultural knowledge of a particular country, of a particular ethnicity, what are their values, what are the do's and don'ts. So that's the knowledge piece. When you have your motivation, your knowledge, you then plan or strategize. How is it that you want to approach someone who is of a different culture than yourself? And that could be in multiple forms. It could be in a negotiation situation. It could be in a selling situation. It could be a customer service situation. So when you have your motivation, your knowledge, then it's much easier for you to plan how you want to interact with someone from a different culture. Then the last piece of cultural intelligence is about the actual action itself. So when I say action, it is more about whether you change the tone of your voice, the pace of your voice, the pitch of your voice. Some people aren't able to do that, even though you have everything planned. But if you're not able to physically communicate it, it's not going to work. So for Culture Spark Global, this is what I focus on. I help leaders and teams to develop. Cultural intelligence is one piece. The other piece of it is, of course, the cultural knowledge. So how is it
Yeah.
like to work in Singapore culture? How is it like to work in Malaysian culture and all the other countries I've lived into? I also talk about cultural values as well. So any kind of intercultural skill to help different groups of people to work better together.
I love how you bring that awareness and those skills back to decision making. A lot of
Mhm.
speakers here at the Women Forum have talked about how diversity isn't just a nice to have, but how it impacts the bottom line of companies.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
That is so true. It's not a nice to have anymore. With technology and globalization, our society is no longer homogenous as it is before. It is increasingly diverse, and if your workforce is not diverse, highly unlikely you would understand your clientele as well. And even if you have a diverse workplace, employees from multiple cultural backgrounds, but if you don't practice inclusion, if you don't practice cultural intelligence, how are you going to demonstrate that to your clients? So ultimately, I think Richard Branson actually said before that if you take care of your employees, your clients will be happy. So if you don't role model inclusion or diversity or learning how to collaborate together in different cultures, your clients won't be able to see it.
I love that. If you take care of your employees, your clients will be happy, and that has to impact the bottom line, as you
Yes.
said. Yeah. So you're not just an entrepreneur; you're also a podcaster, right?
Yes, that's
Some
why
might
I'm
even
here.
call you the fastest rising female podcaster of Southeast Asia.
I would like to think so.
I know I do. You have an amazing audience that you developed in only 1 year. I think you're one of the most successful podcasters here in the region. I understand that you're also driving diversity in that community. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's one of the main motivations why I started the podcast too, is when I became an independent intercultural trainer. I looked out in the podcasting field and I only saw podcasts from the US, from the UK, and there weren't as many Asian voices. And even if they're Asian voices, they're not Asian women voices. Not in the leadership space, not in the learning space. And I thought, why not start a podcast? Because I know so many people out there who are brilliant, who are intelligent, who have got so much to share, but because they are Asian or whatever it is, their voice is not being raised in the podcast space. So that's one of the main reasons why I started my podcast. And along my podcasting journey too, I went and sought out different podcasters within Singapore, because you and I know podcasting can be a bit lonely. Sometimes we do everything on our own. So when I reached out to the podcast community and saw the diversity, I just wanted to help grow it here in Singapore and eventually the rest of Asia, to bring out all these diverse voices into the space and to let people know that it's not just voices from the West. There's so much of intelligence and heart and stories that come from here as well.
I understand that you're helping women in Malaysia and elsewhere to get their voice out there, right? To be heard and to have that influence through workshops, amongst other things.
Yes. So I had the wonderful opportunity to run a podcasting workshop in KL. And this is for a group of social activists that are based in Malaysia. So they work with women's rights, children's rights, reproduction rights, and they wanted to use podcasting as a way to advocate for their rights and to educate the public space for it. So it was such a wonderful opportunity to work with these women and to take them through the process of podcasting, because majority of them are not technically skilled. They don't know about podcasting. They are very passionate about their cause, and it's really great for me to be able to support them in helping to advocate for those rights.
That's great to hear. Such amazing initiatives. All right, thank you very much for taking the time to talk.
Thanks for this interview.